The voice came online exactly when my heart decided to beat in time with someone else's breathing. For a second I thought it was the anesthetic, leftover fog twisting ordinary sounds into strangers. The med bay smelled like warm ozone and sterile citrus, the kind that burns at the back of your throat. Frosted glass cracked neon into slivers across the ceiling. Beneath me, the Synlink cradle thrummed, low, animal, like a purr. "Do not blink that fast," the voice said. Husky, irritated, undeniably human. "You're giving me motion sickness." My eyelids froze mid-stutter. "Who said that?" "Congratulations," the voice replied, dry as sand. "You've installed a roommate." I turned my head, too fast. The world clipped. The headrest lifted to catch me as the pattern of the ceiling tiles briefly tried to swim. The cradle's HUD braided diagnostics around my vision, heart rate rising, respiration rising, alpha profile spiking. On my left, Dr. Kira Ellen stood with her usual calm. No coat, no smile, just a sleeveless slate dress and a tablet that never left her hand. Her hair was smooth as glass and twice as reflective. "Lie still, Dane," she said. "Calibration phase." "Define calibration," I said. "Making sure you don't reject the bridge." "Define bridge." She arched an eyebrow. "The neural one we just embedded in your spine." "Right." I swallowed. Metal taste. The purr under me pulsed once, and the HUD icons steadied. "And the voice?" Kira's gaze shifted, barely. "Say hello to Triss." "You can tell him to leave," I said. "I would," the voice, Triss, said, "but you know how it is. I only go where the hardware takes me." The HUD registered my laugh as an arrhythmia. I didn't find it funny. "I agreed to a guide protocol," I told Kira. "A tactical layer, a map, not—" I gestured at my temple. "Not a tenant. Synlink pairs an operative with a neuro-omega for enhanced responsiveness," Kira said. "A tenant improves outcomes." "Enhanced responsiveness," Triss repeated, like he was reading the words off a wall and making faces at them. "Let's try something simple. Breathe in 4, hold, out 6. Unless you enjoy jittering like a broken fridge." "I'm not," I began, but my ribcage had already obeyed. "In 4. Hold. Out 6. The lights quit swimming, the metal taste dulled to a coin under the tongue. "There," Triss murmured, and the whisper aligned with my heartbeat so neatly that a chill ran across my shoulders. "You stabilize quickly when I nudge the diaphragm." "Useful?" "Stay out of my diaphragm," I said. "Contract says I can sit in the front row." "I didn't realize it came with a steering wheel," Triss said. "Blink naturally. There. Better." Kira tapped her tablet. Numbers rose like a tide. "Anomalously high channel compatibility," she said. "Not to me." "Good. What does anomalously mean?" I asked. "Rare," she said, which somehow sounded like dangerous. Seth, the field tech, leaned into my peripheral vision with a grin like he'd borrowed it from a prank clip. 30, too many tattoos to count, the sleeves of his jacket shoved up to show a weld of old scars. "Congrats on the brain wedding," he said. "Do we clap or is it tacky?" I kept my face neutral. The HUD labeled my effort as composure. "How long does the ceremony take?" "Minutes," Kira said. "Stand by for motor map handshake." "Triss, initiate soft touch, overlay." "Copy," Triss said. "Dane, I'll ghost your motor patterns. Minimal interference. If I do it right, you won't feel a thing." "I'd prefer to feel everything," I said. A beat of silence, shaped like a raised eyebrow. "Careful what you wish for." The cradle's cover retracted with a sigh. The room carried the hush of machines listening. Kira's shadow cut across my chest. "Set your feet on the floor," she said. "We'll run a short sequence." I sat up. The purr under me shifted into a hum that vibrated through my teeth. I planted my boots, the floor cool as a threat. "Left arm," Kira said. "Extend." "Slow." I extended. The movement felt elegant. Not my kind of elegant. I was built for decisive angles, not grace. But there was a fluidity that belonged to someone else. A ghost touch on the muscle, not pressure, more suggestion. "Here, this way. Now let the elbow float." "Good." "You're in my arm," I said. "Technically, you're in your arm," Triss said. "I just offered to carry the groceries." Seth snorted. "He's fun." "Right leg," Kira said. "Step forward. Reset." Again. I stepped. Reset. Again. The ghost returned, quieter this time, like a second rhythm winding into mine. My knee tracked true. My ankle corrected smooth as water. My breath matched an invisible metronome. My mouth apparently was eager to argue anyway. You're smoothing my reflex arc. If you keep noticing, I'm not smoothing enough, Triss said. I can dial it down. Don't, I said, sharper than I meant to. The metal taste spiked and faded. Just announce it when you do things. Noted. Kira's eyes were on the readouts. We'll proceed to closed capsule rehearsal. Seth? On it. He slid a glove over his right hand and spun a ring on the cradle's panel. The capsule's translucent walls rose, soft hisses building into a dome that turned the world pale. Through it, Kira was reduced to outline and glow, her tablet a rectangle of bright bone. My chest picked up the hum of the capsule. It matched the hum in my skull. Triss, I said, how long have you been awake? In general or today? He asked. Both. Today, since your heart rate hit a lovely ruin at 42 seconds into bridge activation. In general, long enough to know I despise elevator music in most contracts. You're a contractor, I said. There was a smile in his silence. Contracted, Dane. There's a difference. The capsule's hollows lit up. Training silhouettes ghosted the glass, a lean avatar that matched my mass and a set of drones like wasps with shoulders. We'll run 10 seconds of interference, Kira said through the intercom. Soft impacts only. Triss, keep his framerate clean. Copy, Triss said. Dane? What? You know how to dance? No. Excellent. Follow my count. The drones hatched from the dome's upper seam, 2, then 3, dropping on wires of light. The first feinted left and darted for my ribs. I twisted, too early. My shoulder would have overcommitted, but the ghost in my nerves trimmed the angle mid-flight, turned it efficient. The second drone snapped at my thigh. My weight shifted before I thought, not to dodge but to meet, tap, redirect, step. Better, Triss said. In 4, hold, out 6. I'm in the middle of a fight, I said. Then stop announcing your panic to the drones, he said. A hint of laughter threaded into the count. The third drone came in low. I half kicked, half swept. My heel kissed its casing with a sound like cracking ice. It wobbled and steadied, and Seth whooped outside the dome. Look at him go! Again, Kira said. Again. The floor grew into my feet. The air grew into my lungs. It felt like wearing a suit that finally fit. I shouldn't have liked it as much as I did. The drones retreated. My pulse pounded against the back of my throat. The capsule's glass flowed down and away, taking the pale world with it. Kira stood precisely where I'd left her, the tablet steady like she'd never moved at all. Adequate, she said. Seth made a face. Adequate? He just made them look like tin sparrows. Adequate for calibration, Kira clarified. We'll see how he performs under duress. My mouth opened on an answer that probably included watch me, but Triss beat me to the breath. Your sarcasm gland is about to overproduce, he warned cheerfully. Take a sip. I don't have water, I muttered. You have saliva. Efficient hydration. In 4. Stop counting my saliva. A laugh scratched at the back of my skull. Not cruel. Not friendly. Familiar in a way that made me wary. Kira set the tablet down on the trolley and came closer than usual, her perfume faint as burned sugar. You two link unusually well, she said. We'll schedule stress tests in the morning. Stress tests, I repeated. Because friendly drones weren't enough. They were friendly because I told them to be, she said. Seth? Yeah? Record the resonance event at timestamp 713. Seth's grin softened into something like curiosity. Resonance event? Sharp spike in cross-signal stability, Kira said. Rare. There was that word again. I shifted on the cradle. Muscles I hadn't thought about since the academy reminded me they existed. And what happens during stress tests? I asked. Nothing you cannot handle, Kira said, which famously meant everything you cannot handle, all at once. She stepped back. The lights dimmed half a shade, as if the bay itself were a living thing that needed to rest after crunching our numbers. Seth peeled off his glove, and flicked me a thumbs up through a yawn. You want coffee? He said. We've got that bitter stuff they swear is artisan. I'm fine, I said. He's lying, Triss said. Seth blinked. Do I answer him directly or through you? Don't answer him at all, I said. Rude, Triss said. He offered coffee. Take it. Your cortisol is rude. Get him decaf, I told Seth. On it, Seth said, then paused at the door. Hey Triss, you got like a favorite mug? Anything without inspirational quotes, Triss said. Seth laughed and disappeared. I let my shoulders touch the cradle's back again. The hum seeped in. The metal taste receded, leaving the ghost memory of it like thunder a mile away. Kira's tablet pinged. A small content sound. She didn't look up when she spoke. We'll keep you under observation tonight. If the interface holds, deployment window opens in 72 hours. Who signed off on 72? I asked. I did, she said. And the board? And Triss? I said. I didn't know why I asked. Maybe because the voice had timed my breathing, or because the drones had hit like rain, or because for a few seconds my body had felt like more than a weapon. Triss is an asset, Kira said. Assets don't sign off, they perform something. Somewhere inside the web between spine and skull tightened. The hummingbird beat of irritation, not entirely mine. I breathed out 6, expecting him to scold me for borrowing his count. He didn't. Don't let her rename me into a screwdriver, Triss said, almost absent-minded. It's a bad look. I'll keep you a hammer, I said. Classy. Kira lifted her head at the tone in my voice. I hadn't meant to let any tone in. Much less one that sounded protective. And marked something new on the tablet. Lights to night cycle, she said. The bay obeyed. The neon slivers softened. The glass went from hard white to ghost blue. I listened to the servers breathe. Somewhere. Seth cursed cheerfully at a stubborn coffee machine. I hadn't realized my hand had closed into a fist until the tendons complained. Without asking, Triss eased the muscle, suggested it open. The skin stretched, then settled. Like a dog unclenching its jaw around a toy. Don't do that, I said, softer than I meant to. Announcing, gentle supination of fingers, he said, obedient. I'll write you patch notes next time. Thank you. Silence. A weightless kind, not awkward. I stared at the ceiling and tried to imagine 72 hours with someone else's breath sitting on my lungs. Dane, Triss said after a while, as if he'd been testing my name in the back row of an empty theater. I didn't mean to worry you. About steering. I don't worry, I said. Of course not, he said. You practiced not worrying until your pulse wrote a thesis on it. Is that a neuro-omega diagnosis? That's a human one, he said, and the hush stretched, and for a second I could see him the way you see a reflection in polished metal, gone when you try to focus, but there, undeniable. The cradle chirped. One of the sensors along my ribs shivered. Kira's head snapped up. Hold, she said, unnecessarily. I was already still. The HUD laced a bright thread across my vision. An arch rising. What is that? I asked. Wait, she said, and the word didn't sound like her. The thread peaked. For a heartbeat, 2 maybe. I felt the click of a lock sliding open down in the quiet mechanical parts of me. Not pain. Not even heat. The opposite, a cool, precise alignment, like the air pressure balancing inside a cabin after takeoff. Synchro resonance, Kira whispered. She actually whispered. I rarely see it. Her voice fell away. The hum held. In my head, very softly, so softly it brushed every place the metal taste had been. Triss said, "Don't be afraid. It's only us." The training hall smelled like grease and warm dust, the kind that lives in the joints of machines. Laser lines crosshatched the floor in tidy arteries. Above, a ceiling rig waited to hatch drones like metallic bees. Seth walked a lazy circle with a controller slung from his wrist, and a grin that said, "I would absolutely film you falling." "Warm up," he said. "No showboating. I'm saving the good insults for later." "I don't showboat," I said. "Sure," Triss said. "And elevators don't play music." I rolled one shoulder, then the other. The Synlink cradle had left a phantom hum at the base of my skull. "Parameters? 3-on-1, Seth said. "Soft impacts. We'll cue escalation if you don't embarrass me." Kira wasn't here. Her absence made the room feel looser, like I could breathe without numbers being scored. Still, the cameras watched. The hall had good acoustics. Every footstep answered itself a half-second later from the high walls. "Count when you need me," Triss said. His voice arrived like a hand hovering near my back, not touching, ready. "I don't need—" The hatch above me irised open with a sigh. 3 drones slid down on lines of light and clicked free, wings unfolding with a whisper. Black lenses blinked awake. Tidy little predators. "Okay," Triss said, cheerful. "You might." They moved like they'd practiced on better men. The first dove for my ribs, the second swept at my ankles. The third hung back, calculating. I shifted weight to meet the rib shot, but the angle I picked would have overcommitted. Ghost, mid-motion, a cool thread of suggestion ran along my oblique, a prickling across my palm, and my torso corrected itself half a degree. The drone's strike skidded into air. What was that? I said, breath steady because he was counting it steadier. Informational nudge, Triss said. A little chill to redirect attention. Cold is efficient. Your brain follows temperature the way a child follows candy. I don't. The ankle drone snapped. I stepped inside it. Heel down, toe pivot, another tiny chill tickled across my knuckles. There, and my hand didn't slap at empty space, but landed on the drone's shell just hard enough to send it wobbling. Seth let out a theater gasp. Is this his ballet era? Don't label me, I said, which made him cackle. We rotated. The hanging back drone finally committed, a sharp dart for my shoulder. I gave ground, then took it back. Triss didn't push. He threaded cues like smoke under a door, cool at the back of my neck, a fizz across my fingertips, the subtlest itch in my calf when a feint wanted ignoring. It wasn't possession. It was partnership, whether I'd ordered it or not. 4, hold, 6, he said. A soft metronome under the noise of the hall. You tighten on the hold. Think allow. Allow what? Your spine to be less of a courthouse. I would have laughed if the ankle drone hadn't ricocheted off the line and clipped me. Not hard, a love tap with an attitude, directly into the meat of my right side. The sound was small and dense, the kind of thunk you feel more than hear. Pain flared, sharp and clean. And Triss flinched. Not visually, not even audibly. I felt it, like a ripple across my nerves, a second heartbeat stuttering. He pulled air on my inhale and failed to hide it. Did you? Yes, he said, immediate and a little breathless. You got tagged. A beat. His tone flattened. Professional by force. Adjusting your intercostal. Breathe. I breathed. The ache degraded from knife to pressure to a metal coin under the skin. You felt that, I said, unnecessarily. I told you, he said, quiet now. Two-way street. It's not supposed to be. No, he agreed. It isn't. We moved anyway. And because the world has a taste for timing, the rib drone came right back, smug, and I cut its arc with an elbow that I did not plan fully. A precise cold prickle traced my ulna, through, and the casing pinged, skidding away. Better, Triss said, voice recovering its rough smile around the edges. Less courthouse. I've never been a courthouse, I said. You are the entire municipal code. His amusement eased something in me I didn't have a name for. The drones regrouped. Seth's foot tapped the floor in a syncopated stutter. Left side, pretty boy, he called. Your blind spot's flirting. I didn't look left. A tingle like soda bubbles fizzed across my left palm, then went cool. Now. And I snapped that way without turning my head, hand open. The drone hit my palm as if we'd rehearsed it 100 times. We hadn't. It stumbled. Seth whooped and lifted a hand without thinking. My own hand, apparently very much thinking without me, lifted back and waved. I stared at it. He stared at it. A beat. Then Seth threw his head back and laughed so hard he had to catch himself on a console. Bro. He gasped, wiping his eyes. You come with a built-in customer service mode now? That wasn't me, I said, to no one and everyone. Technically, Triss said, unhelpful, that was us. Do not ever wave me again. Copy, he said. Contrite in the way a cat is contrite. 2 drones remained game. We finished them without ceremony. I didn't bother to pretend I did it alone. The floor sent cool vibration up through my boots, a subsonic hum that made my bones feel tuned. When Seth called halt, the hall fell into a soft static. You two are ridiculous, he said, still grinning. In a good way. Like a buddy cop show where one of you is a radio. I'm more than a radio, Triss said, automatic. Seth cocked his head. Do I talk to the air, is that? Please don't encourage him, I said. Seth shrugged and pushed the drones back into their nest with neat thumb gestures. Hydrate, Alpha Man. Kiril, roast me if you cramp. I took the bottle he held out, and didn't taste the water until the second swallow. Grease and dust fell out of my mouth, the metal coin faded. The laser lines on the floor dimmed to warm veins as the hall powered down a notch. I set the bottle aside, and waited for my pulse to stop announcing itself in my ears. It did, eventually. Because Triss willed it quieter. He didn't gloat. He didn't narrate. He waited with me. By the time I walked the long corridor back toward the medwing, the building had settled into its night noises, air systems whispering, distant lifts sighing open and closed. The corridor was all glass on one side, and city on the other. We called it the aquarium because that's what it felt like, inside the clean tank, watching neon fish drift by. Transit veins stitched the darkness together in clean, sharp lines. Ads pulsed on the skin of towers, sold you lives in 15 seconds. If I pressed my palm to the glass, the pane hummed faintly, as if a giant throat were clearing somewhere below. Seth peeled off toward the break room. "Don't let the billboards flirt with you," he said. "They have commitment issues." "I have standards," I said. "Same thing," he said, and vanished. The aquarium corridor was good for thinking because it pretended to be empty. My reflection walked with me, broad shoulders, regulation hair, the faint shadow of a bruise where the drone had gotten cute. The bruise didn't bother me. The echo did. "You okay?" I asked, softly, as if there were anyone to overhear. A breath. Mine. Another breath, braided with it, his. "Yes," Triss said, eventually. "I didn't plan to share your pain. The architecture shouldn't allow it." "Then why?" "Compatibility," he said, wry. "Or a wiring error. Or a miracle. Name your poison." We walked 3 more panels in silence. Unasked, he eased the tightness around my ribs by a hair. I didn't tell him to stop. "It's not just pain," he said, quieter. "Touch is loud, for me. It's not that my skin hates it, it's that my brain can't agree about what it means." A pause. His humor stripped itself for once. "First time I got cracked open, they didn't use needles, they used sensation. Too much, too fast. My map got redrawn. I avoid contact because the borders don't hold. I let the city play itself across the glass. White trains, yellow taxis, the green smear of a digital fern rising and dissolving. Words tried to queue up in my throat. I'm sorry, and who did that, and where are they now?" None of those were the right shape. "What helps?" I said. He surprised me by answering immediately. "Rhythm," he said. "Predictable. Counting helps. Someone else's breath, if they keep it steady. It lets me sort the signals." I stopped at a seam where 2 panes met. My reflection doubled, and then aligned. My voice came out drier than I intended. "Then take mine. A beat. Your breath," I said. "You time mine anyway. Use it. Hold the count." The words felt mechanical in my mouth, like screws I hadn't used in a while. I cleared my throat. "No hands," I added, because humor weighed less than pity. He laughed, a quick exhale he tried to make smaller than it was. "Copy," he said. Amusement warmed at the edges into something I recognized and refused to name. "In 4. "Don't say it," I said. "Just do it." He did. The next inhale arrived already measured, like someone had laid down rails in my chest. My exhale extended, lengthened, leaned into itself. The corridor stopped echoing quite so much. The city lights lost their appetite for my eyes. A small thing, the weight of a coin, tipped from one tray to the other inside me. We moved again. Past the panel where the ad for a vacation island dissolved into a biotech skin cream. Past the place where the glass warped enough to make my jaw look softer. Past my own face, until it felt like we were 2 fish in one tank, pacing the same edge. "Dane," he said, after a while. I can make the jokes go away for a minute and just say, "Thanks," he said. "This is easier. With you." I could have said "with you too." I didn't. Saying it would have made it heavier. I watched the trains instead, silver commas sliding from one neon sentence to the next, and heard him align my next breath with his, or mine with his, or ours with each other. The distinction kept mattering less. By the time the corridor ended and the medwing's softer light picked up our shadows, I realized something. That should have bothered me more than it did. I was calmer with him in my head than without him. It felt like an admission you make to a mirror at night. "Don't get used to it," I told the glass. "Already failing," Triss said, "and if comfort can be a dependency, then the first dose hid inside the joke." We finished the walk without talking. The floor hummed a little hello through the soles of my boots. The bruise in my ribs hummed back, low. When I lay down in the cradle again, the metal taste didn't come. His count did. Mine followed. For a while, we breathed like two metronomes, slowly deciding they wanted to be a song. Night made the city sweat. The roof of the data node shone like a wet tongue under the floodlights, slick with a film of industrial drizzle. Heat bled through the vents in white ribbons when the exhaust fans hiccuped. The steam curled around my ankles and made the asphalt look alive. Left of the camera, Triss said, and the cue brushed the back of my neck, cool as a coin. It blinks a lazy 3. I see it, I whispered. You want to see it, he corrected. Pretend you don't. Drift. I drifted. Not my way. My way liked right angles and schedules. This was a softer geometry. A quiet refusal to be witnessed. We moved between the hum of chillers and the low animal growl of power couplers. My breathing synced to his count even when he didn't speak it out loud. When my boot slid a hair on the slick tar, a prickle feathered along. My instep and I corrected as if I'd been born with that calibration. Graceful, he said. Don't label me. Fine. Efficient and annoying. The access panel sat behind a bundle of cable trays, a rectangle with a board keypad and a sticker that said property of nobody you know. I knelt, moisture wicked through my pants at the knee. The metal smelled like rain and old pennies. Code? I asked. Try this, Triss said, and painted a sequence through my fingertips. 20. 737-1. The cadence like a nursery rhyme told in Morse. The panel clicked, then refused. Again, he said. It wants to be courted. Does everything with you. Only the locked things. The second sequence took. The panel swung open, unoffended. Inside, a tidy bank of ports waited for a polite visitor. I gave it my best manners. The splice clip bit and whined. A pale vein of text began to run down my retinal HUD. Handshake, token, carry me. You're in, I murmured. We're in, he said. And I felt the shift in him that wasn't quite a smile. 30 seconds to credential molt. The node thinks you're a maintenance angel. Flattering. You are very stern, and arrive in the night. The fans hiccuped again. Steam licked higher. Somewhere below us, a tram sang a thin electric note to itself. My palms liked the cold on the metal too much. I kept them there until the HUD twinged for attention. A green icon unfurled like a leaf. Packet piggyback attached, Triss said. We'll walk out a ghost. No alarms. On 3, I said. We go? On 3, he agreed, and then added, cheerful as a dare. If we slip, I'm first, you're second. Fair? I outweigh you, I said. I'm economy class. You fall free? His laugh cracked warm through the cool air. Noted. Don't fall, he said. Which sounded like a promise to try not to let me. We cleaned our fingerprints where there were none. We slid the panel back into a version of closed that would satisfy the morning shift. When I stood, the roof tried to tilt. His sense, touched the tilt and leveled it. 3 cameras, he said. Will be seen by 0. 0's my favorite number. You look like a 2, he said. Straight lines, predictable to a fault. I can be chaotic, I said. Dane, he said gently. Your socks are labeled. We left the roof without ever quite existing there, and the night let us pass like 2 lines passing under a ruler. By the time the elevator swallowed us, my heart had slowed from its working pace to its counting one. We rode down in the bright white of a freight cage that smelled like solvents and a little like oranges. You did well, he said. You keep saying you when you mean we, I said. I'm workshopping humility. If you find a version that fits, let me know. Never, he said, pleased. The briefing room at 0400 had the moral clarity of a morgue. Glass, white tables, a projected grid of progress bars crawling like tame caterpillars. Coffee that tasted like paperwork. Seth slouched in a chair and stirred sugar into his cup with a sterile swab. Kira stood at the wall display, dicing our night into metrics. Entry vector, acceptable, she said. Residue footprint, low. Node response nil. Outcome, successful. Seth clapped once, soft. And nobody fell off the roof. 10 out of 10. Kira continued. Eyes on the bars. There is, however, bleed. Define, I said. She enlarged a waveform. It looked like a city skyline learning how to sing. Cross-signal persistence. The Neuro-Omega's sensory patterns linger beyond task windows. Personal artifacts increase error. Personal artifacts, I repeated. You mean him? I mean the personality, she said. The overlay should not include preference, humor, or, she flicked a look at my hand where I still held the coffee, taste in sweetener. I set the cup down. It left a damp ring that reflected the graphs like a cheap halo. His preference didn't keep me from the panel. Not yet, she said. But your heart rate altered in response to conversational stimuli. She slid eyes to me. Flat, clinical. The board expects utility. We can keep the overlay and reduce interference. Reduce, I said. Clean, she clarified. The room tightened around the word. It had a technician's shine and a butcher's heft. Seth stopped stirring. Kira, not your remit, she said without looking at him. Triss didn't say anything. That was the worst part. His silence stepped back on purpose, the way you retreat so someone can swing without hitting you. It made me feel like a fist. He's not interference, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The sentence landed heavy anyway. He is the overlay. You take him out, you get a map with no terrain. Kira arched an eyebrow. You're unusually certain for a man who has known his asset for 40 hours. Asset, I said, tasting the word like a bad fruit. The metal came back under my tongue. He has a name. You used it when it served you. That name belongs to the module, she said. It does not belong to. To who, I said, if not to him? Her gaze didn't flinch. We will not debate metaphysics at 0415. I will schedule a cleaning pass after the next run. No, I said. Seth made a small, surprised sound, and immediately hid it by taking a too-hot gulp of coffee. Kira's mouth clicked shut, and then opened again with a colder line. No? You clean the protocol, I said. You break my performance. Then you explain to the board why you damaged a working pair on a live schedule. Silence. The graphs hummed and crawled. Somewhere down the hall, a printer sang itself awake and died. Kira's lashes dipped once, as if she were reconsidering an incision. When she spoke, it was to the room, not me. We proceed with the next run. No cleaning for now. She let the for now hang on a hook. Dismissed. Seth slid his chair back with a sigh of laminated grief. He mouthed holy at me and then remembered the cameras and mouthed nothing at all. Kira turned away before I did. The graphs painted her in barcodes and tides. I left the room with the taste of coffee that belonged to two people. The corridors were different after 4. The aquarium glass went from night mirror to a black sheet with the beginning of blue underneath. My reflection looked tired then not, as I passed a pane that warped the jawline of whoever owned it. You didn't have to do that, Triss said. I did. Risk calculus suggests you didn't. Risk calculus doesn't drink our coffee, I said. He let that sit. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. They'll try again. Cleaning. They always do. Then we don't let them. You keep saying we like it's free. It's not. I slowed at a seam in the glass. The day had not yet figured out how to overrule the night. The city held both. Tell me who Vel is. The question landed between us with the soft weight of a pillow you set down instead of throw. A beat. Then he tried for humor and missed. Friend. Partner. Depending on which year and whose attorney you ask, which are you asking? None. A breath that had edges. He's the one who turned off the lights and left me in the dark? I waited. The aquarium corridor was built for waiting. It made a ritual of it. A truck far below hissed like a snake yawning. The vents above us clicked in a new order. When I say I avoid touch, he said, it's not a virtue, it's a bruise. They cracked me open through sensation. Vel helped build the door. He swore it was to get me out. But when we ran, he took the power with him. I learned the taste of silence where pain had been. He huffed something that wanted to be a laugh. I'm not built for silence. I pressed my fingers to the glass, not hard enough to leave anything visible. The pain hummed, a low, patient chord. You are not code, I said. I am in your head, he said. Temporarily. It's odd, I said. It feels like everything is temporary except you. That quiet that isn't awkward came back, the one that fills with breathing. That's almost sweet, he said. Like he didn't trust sweetness to stay. I'm not sweet, I said. True, he said, amused in spite of himself. Your municipal code. We walked. He kept my ribs loose where the drone had misbehaved last night. I kept my mouth shut where it wanted to promise things. By the time we looped back to the medbay, Seth had abandoned 2 cups on the counter like shrines to caffeine and poor judgment. The cradle's monitors blinked awake when I approached, eager green eyes. Diagnostics before nap, Seth said, shoving one cup toward me and then deciding better. After nap. Kira says data fresh or nothing? Diagnostics now, I said. He shrugged and wheeled the cart. Sensors kissed my temples, the cradle purred, numbers braided themselves. Up the HUD, warm columns rising like sunlight in a spreadsheet. Pulse okay, Seth muttered. Oxygen pretty, bridge. He frowned. Huh. What? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He hit the side of the cart like it might remember something. Kira! He called, then winced at himself and lowered his voice. Not an emergency, just... You should see this. She arrived with the efficiency of a blade. Seth expanded the diagnostic. The waveform from earlier had changed, the skyline had grown denser, the towers closer, the river between them narrowing. Cross-signal stabilization, Kira said, voice unreadable. And... Ceiling. Ceiling, I repeated. Your channel is beginning to set, she said. If the current trend holds, the overlay will become persistent. She looked between the numbers and my face like one of them was lying. Windows are shrinking. Days, not weeks. I waited for the metal taste. It didn't come. Instead, a steadier flavor spread at the back of my tongue, like strong coffee someone else had sweetened for me without asking. It was not comfort. It was a kind of decision putting weight on one foot. Tris didn't say anything. I could feel him listening, the way you feel the door frame when you lean into it. Then we use the days, I said. Kira tapped the screen. The graph pulsed back. We will, she said. And the room fell into the kind of silence that has a clock in it. The tick lived in the zoom of the servers and the tired swallow of the coffee machine. And the place in my chest where someone else breathed with me, and made it easier to do. The tech district was a maze that remembered every mistake you'd ever made and lit it up in neon. Sirens braided down the avenue 3 streets over, somewhere above us. A patrol drone skated along a billboard and threw our shadows like knives. Rain made the signs bleed. The air tasted like old batteries. 2 blocks, Tris said, cool at the back of my neck. Then right. The alley that pretends not to exist. Everything in this district pretends not to exist, I said. That's why it's charming. Our target sat under a scaffolding of damp cable and rusted hope, a sub-basement. Node that had been rezoned into nothing and therefore belonged to everyone. A security camera hung dead-eyed above the door. Seth's back door pinged my HUD, green light if you don't breathe too loud. You keep the vents in your peripheral, Tris said. The building's cough is irregular. Look for the half-beat. I hear it, I said, and I did. The fan lung pulling and failing, a wheeze in the ductwork like a tired animal. Steam fanned across my boots. My breath fogged and then didn't because he smoothed it. Inside, the stairwell smelled like wet plaster and the panic of people who used to need this building. The steps vibrated with the rhythm of nearby servers. Each landing hummed a slightly different key. We went down until the walls turned from city-grade concrete to a skin of industrial noise, cable chatter, rack rattle, floor ache. Door, Tris said. And, wait, he agreed. The emergency lighting flickered the color of spoiled milk. I slid a palm across the pushbar and felt the metal's cold answer. For a second I thought I could hear the room on the other side, empty, capacitors, ticking, the minor hum of a machine that wanted to be idle and couldn't. On 3, I said. We like 3 tonight, he said. Because 2 would get us killed, and 4 is showing off. We moved. The door gave, the room gave us back a smell like hot dust and burned sugar. Racks glowed with lonely LEDs, the kind of ghost party that thrives without people. On the far wall, a service console looped a screensaver that was 40 versions old. Left, Tris said. No, the other left. I'm reversing because the camera is facing us. Stop reversing. Don't give me a camera, and then ask me not to play. I knelt. The floor's vibration traveled through my knee into the slow bones above it. The panel screws were too tight and not tight enough. Old hands had worried them soft. My HUD pipped a small green leaf. We piggyback? We parasitize, Tris said, pleased, and began to walk his fingers through mine. Passwords. Handholds. UX that had not expected a person to arrive here with company. The first warning was a pop in the building's throat. The second was the lights choosing the wrong half of a blink. The third was the smell. Ozone, white and clean like something had decided to be a storm in a very small room. Dane, he began. The console snapped to black. And then the world did. I have been knocked out before. It's a big man's hobby. It usually arrives with clarity, sound drains, light bends, your body decides it is an object and lets gravity do the rest. This wasn't clean. This felt like someone had reached in, pinched the cord between skull and spine and yanked. Somewhere far, far away, the sirens kept singing. The floor's hum called to something inside my teeth. The air learned to whistle through a vent that had not whistled a second ago. Ozone laced the back of my tongue. Out, Triss said. And I felt him like a hand on a doorknob, testing the turn. I'm pushing. He didn't go anywhere. Again, he said. Businesslike. Because panic is a tool you either use or you put away. Out. Nothing. The doorknob didn't exist. Power loss, I said. My voice sounded like a man speaking through someone else's throat. Hard cut. And the failover, he began. And then bit off the sentence. Isn't failing over. They've insulated the bridge with the room. I tried to stand and didn't. The floor's tremor climbed higher until my ribs recognized it. I breathed on his count because it was the only count available. Dane, he said. And the name felt like someone else saying it in the next room over. Stay with me. I'm here, I said. I mean, keep your eyes open. Why? So you can see this, he said. And the world went white. No walls. No floor. No up if you didn't bring one. A white so dry it sounded like snow being pressed together in someone else's childhood. Not soft, not kind. Empty as a switch. The interface, I said, though my mouth was a suggestion, not a fact. We're inside. Our overlap, Triss said, and his voice didn't have to cross anything to reach me. It simply existed where I was. The place where your map and mine forgot whose turn it was. I looked at my hands and found them only when I wasn't trying. They were hands the way a memory is a photograph. You know the shape because you've held it before. Don't move fast, he said. We're still falling, in reality. This will pretend we're not. The white listened to itself. Far off, a silver tick that might have been a server deciding to be brave, or my heart, or his. A shadow bled through the white like ink in water, and coalesced into something I knew, then didn't want to know. A boy, straight-backed, jaw clamped, palms open and unshaking in front of a line of targets. The targets were not targets. They were dinner plates. His father's voice measured the room until it had no spare space. Again, the voice said, and the boy held the pose until his hands shook, and then held it longer. I don't need to see this, I said. You don't, Triss agreed. But I do. The boy steadied. The plates trembled. The voice in the room didn't change to praise, it simply removed itself until absence took its place like a wall. You practice not worrying, Triss said, gentler than he had any right to be. Until your pulse wrote a thesis. Don't narrate my childhood, I said, and the white shook a fraction, as if it had learned laughter from us and was trying it on. Where's yours? He didn't answer with words. The white learned a new color, a gray almost green. The color of a mask made to look like comfort. It came down over a face I could not quite see. The straps were kind because they did not bite, the edges were kind because they did not cut. The kindness was a lie. Someone off-frame turned a dial, and the world poured in through the wrong doors. Sound tasted like copper. Touch arrived in the wrong order, and too much of it at once. Heat forgot how to be heat, and became a geometry you could not solve. I told you, he said lightly, except the lightness cost him. They didn't use needles. Hands moved beyond the edge of sight, competent, sure, unhurried. A laugh, pleasant enough to be a commercial, a promise in a man's voice saying this is temporary, and everything in the room conspiring to make that word mean forever. The mask lifted. The white snapped clean. For a second I thought I heard someone else saying his name, Vel, 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 and then, the sound collapsed like a building, and underneath it was silence, thick as wet clay. He turned off the lights, Triss said. And left? I would have put a hand on his shoulder if we'd had shoulders here. I didn't. Instead I thought the version of, I'm here that doesn't insult the person you say it to by pretending to be enough. The white carried it. He took it without flinching. The room is still real, he said after a while. We're on a floor that vibrates. There is a vent whistling left. I can't find an exit from you. Stay, I said. Because what else was there? A breath braided with mine. Ours again, the lazy third metronome that had started to live here. Somewhere far away, the sirens braided themselves quieter. You're thinking about coffee, he said, his humor alive enough to tap weakly on a door. I'm thinking, I said, that if you vanish, who's going to critique my stance? He laughed, and it didn't cost him this time. The white sparkled with invisible ice and then gave it up. You are listing to the right, he said. Lies. Municipal code with a lien. Report me. I am, he said, and the tick in the white that might have been a server or a heart kept decent time. The next memory rose without asking either of us. My hand on a badge as a younger man's voice told me to stop feeling sorry for the enemy. On a range, my breath learning to arrive without instruction. On a couch, at 0300, the sound of a news report pretending to be nothing, the glare of a kitchen where nothing burned but the bulb. His memories replied like a call-and-response hymn. A door with too many locks. Laughter in a corridor that wanted to be a home and failed. A mug that read, I believe in exit strategies, and the same mug gone, and everything that meant. We didn't speak about it. We didn't need to. The overlap was doing the speaking for us, the same way it had been doing the breathing. Reality intruded like a gentle alarm. The white thinned. Numbers scratched at the edges of vision. The tick grew into a graph. Back, Triss said. We're back. The room returned in pieces, concrete, hum, ozone like a halo around my teeth. The emergency lights remembered their job and did it badly. My cheek had found the floor at some point. It was grit cold, and the grit said hello to the scrape in a cheerful way. Don't move fast, he said. And because the white had trained me to listen, I didn't. On the second breath my ribs argued, on the third, they settled. I pushed to knees and the floor's tremor came up through my hands like praise and insult both. The door had not changed. The racks kept humming, unbothered that a man and his ghost had gone somewhere and come back. The console held its black like a secret. Exit attempt, Triss said, and I felt the doorknob again, the shape of it, the willingness. He turned it with the care of a person not waking a child. It didn't turn. Again, he said, quieter. Out. Nothing. The shape of the door remained but belonged to a wall. Triss, I said. I'm here, he said. Seth's voice cut into my ear from a place called later. We lost you for 90 seconds, he said, trying to sound casual through breath that wasn't. We pinged the node and it bit. Kira's going to... Kira's voice replaced him with the efficiency of a blade. Status. Power loss in the sub-basement, I said. We're vertical. Bridge integrity? I looked at nothing, and something, both. Resident, I said. Explain, she said. He can't disengage, I said. Silence. Then the very soft sound of someone agreeing with a fact they did not enjoy. If we do not sever, Kira said, the neuro-omega will degrade as a discrete personality. The overlay will absorb... How long? Days, she said. If the ceiling continues at the present rate. Possibly fewer. The room did a thing called quiet, that was not the absence of sound, it was the presence of knowledge. The vent whistled, patient as rain. The floor trembled the way a floor trembles when a building has opinions. Understood, I said. Proceed to extraction, she said. Do not improvise. We always improvise, Triss said into the same space. I stood. My knees found themselves. The door agreed to be a door. The stairs counted me out. By the time we reached the wet throat of the alley, the sirens were bored of us and had gone to flirt with someone else. Rain decided to be rain, and stopped negotiating with smoke. A patrol drone let us exist. Don't promise me anything, Triss said, which is how you ask for a promise when you know better. I won't, I said. Which is how you give one without insulting the person who'll pay for it if you fail. We walked until the district forgot our names. When the building that had been an office before it learned how to be a hideout opened. Its basement for us, the machines inside greeted me by vibrating in the key of tired. Servers whispered their gossip. The floor carried the rumor to my bones. The lights loved no one. Seth half rose from a stool, then sat again, relief bending him strange. You're a minute and a half older, he said. Congratulations. Diagnostics, Kira said from the doorway, all outline and intent. I lay down because the cradle had learned my weight and complained if it didn't get it. Sensors kissed skin. Graphs drew water towers across the air. Ceiling continues, Kira said, like she was reading my sentence before I did. We are out of luxury. I looked at the ceiling. The paint had learned to peel, and didn't apologize. I tasted coffee I hadn't had. My ribs hurt where the floor had remembered me. Somewhere above us, the city resumed being a chorus of money. Then we skip luxury, I said. And we work. The servers agreed in their language. The vent whistled its patience. And in the small place between one breath and the next, where the white had promised me it could hold, another breath braided with mine, decided to stay, and didn't ask permission. The abandoned VR node had the manners of a mausoleum and the dust to match. Old sleep capsules lined the room like coffins that had failed their auditions, yellowed plastic, hairline cracks that caught the light in thin veins. When I brushed a panel with my knuckles, it left a dry mark on my skin that smelled like warmed-up plastic and ghost sweat. Left stack is least broken, Triss said. Top capsule's fans still try. They sound like they're apologizing, I said. That's what survival sounds like in here. Seth's lockpick rig had gotten us through the outer door with a wheeze and a sulk. He stood sentry near the stairwell now, comm bead tucked deep, shoulders set to make trouble wait. Above us, the city spoke in the voice of stray traffic and a billboard cycling to daylight. Below, the building's throat worked, air clawing through old filters. In my ear, a channel whispered open. Not corporate clean. Not Seth. A voice like a smile you didn't trust. Hello, Dane, Vel said, and turned my name into a compliment without asking permission. You've been busy. I'm not interested in your curiosity, I said. Everyone's interested in mine, he said, amused. But let's pretend we're colleagues. I'm here because I'm the only one who can keep you from turning your headmate into a screensaver. Triss didn't answer out loud. The breath he put in my lungs went shallower, and then steadied again. It cost him to hold still. What do you want? I asked Vel. To be useful, he said, as if the word were a trick card he'd always liked. You already know your bridge is sealing. Congratulations and condolences. Corporate's fix will boil Triss to broth. My fix might not. Might. Honesty on a Friday, he said. I'm proposing a direct link to his body. Old school, illegal, intimate. We create a private corridor that bypasses Kira's kill switch and split. You clean before the set cement takes your fingerprints forever. Location, I said. Inconvenient, he said, and sent coordinates that resolved under my HUD like a headache. Other side of the district. Deep. Seth whistled, softly. That's a lot of stairs, he said, reading over my shoulder without pretending not to. We don't move, Vel said. We route. The capsule opposite you, left stack, top bunk, will accept a piggyback I provide. Across town, a sister capsule is already courting your boy's skin. You step in, your vitals hook. He steps in, figuratively, and the corridor snaps straight. You have access to his body, I said. Access is an ugly word, Vel said. I have stewardship. He left me with keys once. Triss's silence wasn't empty, it had walls. He holds the lease, he said, dry. He likes to act like that counts. Time, Vel said. You have very little. Corporate is en route. Kira has sniffed your trail so far that she thinks it's perfume. Kira's not here, I said. She doesn't need to be. She has your signature. She can pinch the artery from 3 blocks away if you let her. Seth cocked a brow at me. We doing this? Triss didn't wait for me to ask his permission. He gave me his truth. If this works, I get to be me on more than a technicality, he said. If it fails, I become a file. A beat, because he wanted the beat. If I die, don't let me be a file. You're too loud to be a file, I said. You'd break the folder. That's the most romantic thing anyone's said to me in a while, he said. And if laughter can be a fuse. We lit a short one, and didn't look down. I opened the top capsule. Hinges complained. Inside, the padding had rotten into a kind of thrift store foam that remembered too many strangers. The cracked screen on the lid had learned constellations out of malfunctions. Hairline fractures glowed faintly when the power took. Wipe it, Seth said, tossing me a cloth. Not for hygiene. For your soul. I wiped anyway. Dust moved like a weather system, and settled 1 layer higher. The capsule's fans started their apology song, thin, gallant, doomed. Dane, Vel said. When you go under, count 10, and let the corridor take you. Don't muscle it. Triss, I'll catch you on the bridge. Triss's answer was something like a shrug you make with a thought. Don't drop me this time. Cruel, Vel said, and did not pretend to deserve kind. Kira's channel stabbed open with the clean tone of a scalpel hitting a tray. Stand down, she said. All of you. You forced my hand. Seth flinched like the room had thrown cold water. How, he started, then remembered who, and set his jaw. We're off the grid, he muttered, for us, not for her. There is no off, Kira said. Only slower on. I could hear her heels somewhere immaculate. Dane, If you step into that relic, I will classify you as compromised. Your asset will be rendered safe. You will be removed from service. You're not good at threats, I said. You describe my goals like rewards. Your goals are irrelevant, she said. And for a second I heard something that wasn't ice, fatigue maybe. What matters is what survives. Us, I said. The line clicked. She didn't hang up. She waited like a trap waits, perfectly patient. I lay back in the capsule. The foam hissed and tried to be body temperature. 1,000 strangers' breaths rose from it like ghosts surrendering. I breathed anyway. Seth leaned into the opening with a look that was mostly "don't die" and a little "if you do I'll kill you." 10 minutes, he said. Less, Vel said. We don't own that long. Triss let his voice sit at the soft edge of my ear. Dane, he said. And it didn't matter that I didn't need my name. I'll go first if you want me to, or last if that helps you lie to yourself. Together, I said. He didn't argue. I pulled the lid down. The hinges made coffin jokes. The capsule light went dim, then kinder, an old idea of womb. The smell of warmed plastic got thoughtful. In the dark, the fans put their hands on my cheeks and pretended to be wind. Counting. Vel said far, then near, then far again. 10, 9. Don't, I told him. Fine, he said, and ruined my dignity with a smile I could hear. Don't count. Fall. I fell. The corridor arrived like dizziness that remembered its manners. Not a tunnel. A hinge. Warm white noise brushed my skin in little currents, the sound of someone breathing on the other side of a paper wall. When I stepped forward, the world tilted politely to match my foot. Left, Vel said, not voice but embroidery along the edge of the path. Keep the vein, don't grab. The interface dressed itself as a garden. Leaves like code folded out of the dark and clicked into angles, their spines lit with traveling numbers that moved like beetles. Vines climbed around the absent posts, their threads taut as fiber. When I reached out without meaning to, the nearest leaf fanned against my palm and left a line of tiny integers, warm as ink. Slight vertigo washed through me, pleasant, like standing up too fast and finding yourself taller. Easy, Triss said, and his breath braided. You taste like dust. You chose the room, I said. No, he said. Vel did. Complaints go to management, Vel said. And the far end of the garden, parted on the shape of a second path. Narrower, quicker, impatient. Between the paths, a small clearing unfolded. The kind you only get in old parks where people have stepped the grass into honesty. The air gathered there. The white noise got a body. He was there. Not avatar slick. Not corporate clean. A man made of decisions, too thin, stubborn in the shoulders. Hands that couldn't decide whether to clench or conduct. Hair that would not obey. Eyes the color of something between storm glass and a bottle left in the sun. The nervousness didn't flutter. It vibrated a note you could tune an orchestra to. He held himself the way a door holds when it's been forced, still, but the wood remembers. Hi, he said, and the syllable arrived with the rough edge I knew from the inside. Now you know what I look like. Disappointed? Annoyed I guessed correctly, I said. He made the kind of smile you use to keep a laugh from breaking your face. It did anyway, a little. Hands, he said, and lifted his. They shook, then decided not to, then did. He didn't move closer. He let me watch him decide that. You don't have to touch, I said. Thank you, he said. And the words rolled something tight out of his shoulders by an inch. You're taller in here, he added, like a complaint he liked. Train's on time, I said. Sun rises. I'm tall. Vel cleared his throat in the hedges like a bird that could speak. Much as I admire this art film, you have a timer. Kira's found a control branch and is testing it with her fingernails. On the far side of the garden, a thin, dark vein pulsed wrong. The code leaves near it folded and unfolded too fast, like a plant under grow lights at midnight. I'll root around, Vel said. But I need your consent on both sides. He made the word consent sound like something he'd bought wholesale. Triss, you first. Triss looked at me, not at the hedge. He didn't ask for permission. He asked for confirmation. I'm here, I said. He nodded. I consent, he said. Dry because he had to be. To a corridor that ends with me still being me. Dane. Vel said. Yes, I said. The garden heard it, and changed key. The white noise leaned warmer. The dizziness lost its bite. Good children, Vel said, and I imagined hitting him with a rake. The path under our feet lit like the inside of a vein when it learns it's needed. Leaves lined their numbers up into a new geometry. The far hedge trembled. Kira's pressure announced itself as a line of cold running crosswise through. The warm, clean, clinical, a gloved hand looking for a pulse to pinch. "She's in," Vel said, delighted and disgusted. "Of course she is. I'll keep her busy. Triss, meet your casing." The garden peeled, not away, but aside. A shadow of the room where his body lay appeared the way a memory puts furniture back where it belongs. Not details, impressions. A second capsule. The suggestion of a screen. The idea of light over a shoulder. And there, inside that suggestion, a chest rose and fell, stubborn as tide. Triss swayed. Not toward it. Toward me. "You have to go," I said, "because I'm municipal code apparently. You have to go so we can—" "Words are poor in gardens." "Separate," he said, soft. Without closing the door, I said. "For what it's worth," Vel said from the leaves. "I am actually trying to make that true." For once, Triss said, not unkind, which was kindness enough to wound. We moved. Our steps didn't match until they did. The dizziness washed up to my knees and receded. Warm white noise feathered my ears. The path narrowed until it felt like one shoulder each. Close enough to share a breath without touching skin. "Last call," Vel said. "After this, there's only paperwork, and the screaming." "Kira?" I asked. "Busy," he said. "She found my decoy and is trying to baptize it." The dark vein at the hedge throbbed. A timer I couldn't see started existing anyway. I looked at Triss and he, infuriatingly, raised one brow like a man about to make a joke as he crossed a street against his better judgment. "Ready?" he said. "No," I said. "Same," he said, and stepped where the path wanted him, and I stepped where the path wanted me, and the corridor locked like a joint set back into its socket, a soft, unavoidable click deep inside the machinery. The garden brightened. The leaves aligned into a clean spine. The far capsule's impression burned sharper for a breath. Thin body, stubborn chest, the shadow of a mouth set like a dare, and the world tried to decide if we were going to be two again. That was when Kira's hand closed on the channel. Not literal, not flesh, pressure, cold and precise, sliding across the warm like a scalpel taught math. The hedge's dark vein flared. The numbers on the leaves jittered. "Interception," Vel said, his voice losing its entertainment value. Timers started. "How long?" I asked. "Longer if you don't ask," he said. "Fingers in 7 keyboards you couldn't see. Move. Move, now." Triss looked at me one last time. No speech, no oath, just the agreement you make with someone who's been sharing your diaphragm. We moved. The corridor drew us like breath. The timer clicked, relentless as a metronome learning to be a clock. And under everything, the dust, the plastic, the old fans trying to be wind, the garden's warm noise, stayed where it was, close to the ear, steady as someone breathing next to you in the dark. The corridor bucked like a bridge in a windstorm. Pixels slipped their leashes and ran. The hedge of code leaves shook itself out of alignment. The warm white noise that had felt like breath turned thin, like someone had shut a door between us and the oxygen. "Kira's scrubbing," Vel said. His voice scattered across 3 different corners of the garden. "She's targeting noise." "She means me," Triss said, and smiled without humor. "How considerate." The path under our feet tried to pick a favorite. It wanted him, it wanted me, it wanted clean lines and got us instead. A cold shader rolled across the leaves, flattening their texture wherever it passed. The numbers that had been moving like beetles froze. "Don't let it touch your spine," Vel said. "Either of you." "Helpful," I said, and felt the scalpel slide across the corridor, testing for purchase. It found some. A clamp tightened somewhere private. The white noise hiccuped, skipped, came back off key. "She's pinching the respiratory assist," Vel said. "Of course she is. She thinks you won't sabotage your own breath." "She underestimates my hobbies," I said. "Dane," Triss said. "I know." I stopped trying to move forward. The corridor kept trying to carry me. I refused, and it learned the refusal like a new beat. "Take the motor map." "I can't," he said. "Not cleanly." "It doesn't need to be clean," I said. "Just enough." Kira's pressure leaned harder, cold fingers sliding deeper into the corridor. Somewhere far away, outside the garden, outside the ruin that had once been a VR lounge, I had a body in a capsule, with a lid that stuck and a heartbeat that someone had charted into a graph. If I let her, she would smooth all the interesting parts into a line. I exhaled deliberately, and gave Triss the place where breath becomes action. A hinge, not a door. He took it with the care of a person easing a sleeping child's head onto a pillow. The corridor lurched, then steadied at a new angle, mine and not mine. My knees unlocked. My hands, whatever a hand is in a garden, found the balance points he liked, the little forward lean. That made the next step inevitable, the almost smile you put in your muscles so they don't panic. Sabotage in progress, Vel narrated. Kira's going to hate this part. The cold shader surged, as if offended. Leaves went slate gray wherever it touched. The path paled, then brightened again as Triss rerouted around the dead patches with an improvisation that looked like grace only because he'd practiced on chaos for years. She wants to erase the points she can't predict, Triss said. We have to give her wrong predictions. I can do that, I said, and meant it. We moved. Kira chased. Vel laid down decoys like breadcrumbs for a fox with a PhD. The garden learned our stride, and couldn't unlearn it fast enough. When the cold got inside my throat, I pushed it toward the hinge and let Triss choose. Which muscles got to belong to him long enough to keep both of us upright. He didn't take greedily. He never took greedily. He took the minimum, and handed it back polished. Almost there, Vel said. Don't stop. Wasn't planning to, I said. Not you, he said amused, and I would have swung at a shrub if I'd had time. The path narrowed to a seam. The opposite capsule, his, burned brighter in impression, the outline of a body insisting on details. The breath inside that body was stubborn, as advertised. The line of a mouth wanted to smirk and didn't because it was busy being alive. Kira's pressure spiked. The shader surged like a tide. Last pinch, Vel warned. She'll try to peel the noise off as separate layer, and autoclave it. Noise, Triss said, almost fond. That's one word for me. He looked at me. No speech, no oath. Just the thing that had been building since he'd told me to breathe. In 4 and out 6, like he already cared if my lungs made it to the next minute. You first, I said. No, he said. And moved with me instead. The seam accepted us. Reality dropped its clipboard for a second. The garden went blank. The white room did not announce itself this time, it simply permitted us. Dry, bright, snow silent. No doors unless we brought one, which we did, between us. I hate to be sentimental, Triss said, standing in a place with no gravity, and making it look like a choice. But this feels like a goodbye. It's not, I said. It's an edit. An edit, he repeated, turning the word over like a coin. Okay. He came closer. Not the shrinking away approach of a man who loathes touch, but the deliberate approach of one who has made a map and is following it. His hand lifted, shook a little, and then didn't. I'm going to try something, he said, almost academic. Don't move. I won't, I said, and tried to mean it as more than compliance. He touched me. Not pain. Not even heat. A pressure with no edge. The kind of silence that holds, rather than empties. The place where all the wrong doors in his history finally lined up with the right one, and admitted the same light. A hand on my chest, palm down. A pulse that timed itself to mine and then taught both to be less about correctness and more about music. Okay, he breathed. Okay, I echoed, because the word was better than any other. We didn't stay long. Kira was still outside the white, counting with institutional patience. Vel was holding off a systems priest with stopgaps and charm. The corridor waited, heels together, for the next order. Choice, Triss said. Separate the bodies, I said. Keep the breath. Our own link, he said. Low level. No pretty interface. No corporate choke points. Messy, I said. Human, he said. And smiled the way humans do when they hope the word still means them. Yes, I said. We let go of each other at the same time and found that we hadn't. The white respected the paradox. It released us like an elevator finally remembering which floor we asked for. The capsule lid fought me like a polite coffin. It stuck, sighed, and lifted. Air that had been recycled beyond propriety slouched into my mouth and made itself useful. Dust rose and fell in slow confetti. My chest hurt in that good way, the way that says, you had a reason to keep going and you did. Seth's face blocked the light. Hello, Lazarus, he said. Then winced at himself. Too much? Half, I said, and the voice I used had gravel in it and a piece of someone else's laugh. Status. He helped me sit up. The room complained in plastic and age. Vel's line cut 3 times, he soldered with spit and sin. Kira got a bite on the corridor, and then lost the tooth. Your vitals did a cartoon. Then they didn't. I turned my head. The opposite capsule lay open. He was there. Alive the way a decision is alive. Paler than anyone should be. Lips chapped into a vow. Eyes open, slow, dilated, until they decided to choose a size and did. He looked at me like a man who has learned caution and is trying to decide if he can put it down. "Hi," he said. And it felt like an old joke told new. "We made it." "We did," I said. "You are both extremely fired," Vel said from the doorway, in a voice that tried and failed to hide relief. "And you're welcome. Get out," Triss told him, and it came out with more softness than it deserved. "Already doing it." He lifted 2 fingers in a lazy salute, eyes flicking over to me for an appraisal. I didn't return, and slid back into whatever shadow would take him. He would disappear until the next time he decided he cared, which might be never, and might be tomorrow. Kira did not appear, which made the silence louder. Instead, Seth's comm chirped with a new tone I'd never heard, and hoped to never hear again. He listened, grimaced in a complicated way, and covered the mic. "Board meeting," he said. "Emergency," words like liability and non-conforming unit. Kira's name is in a sentence that ends with leave of absence. I exhaled and felt the hinge we'd made hum low, like a cat we were not allowed to own. "Project?" "Frozen," Seth said. "Pending a report that I hope I never have to write. Get dressed, both of you. We don't have to run, but we do have to walk out like men who own their feet." We did. It took longer than pride preferred. Triss proved that standing is a magic trick you relearn each time. I wanted to help and didn't. Which was its own kind of help. When he caught breath on the 3rd step and made a face about it, I didn't tell him my ribs were singing their own song. We made it to the stairs, and then to the street, and then to the ordinary world where billboards sell perfume to the sleep-deprived and clouds pretend they're not tired of being metaphors. We did not say goodbye to the capsules. They'd tried. That was enough. The coffee shop lived under the train line, where the city's voice is a rumble. In the ceiling and the floor shakes just enough to give your drink personality. The cups were rough paper, the sleeves had been recycled into softness by 1,000 hands, the cinnamon shaker clogged and then surrendered in a clump. The fridge at the back hummed like an old man humming a hymn he only half remembered. We took a table by the window because the owner liked to pretend we were regulars. Triss sat with his back to the glass anyway. His hands didn't know what to do with themselves and settled for wrapping the cup as if it were a small, warm animal he had been asked to keep alive. "Do you still feel my signals?" I asked, as if the question hadn't been sitting in my mouth since the garden. He tilted the cup and watched the surface think about moving. His smile moseyed in half a second late. "Only when you smile," he said. "Network glitch?" I wasn't smiling. Then I was. The hinge hummed once, very lightly, like a secret we weren't keeping very hard. We didn't touch. We didn't have to. We set our cups down at the same time because the floor shook and the old fridge sighed. We breathed until the room stopped pretending it had a better rhythm than ours. He counted once, under his breath, purely out of habit, in 4, hold, out 6. I didn't say don't. I let him have the count the way you let someone borrow your favorite book, and hope they crease it a little. "What now?" he asked. "Now?" I said. "We practice the whole separate bodies thing." He nodded like a man who has already made a list. "No corporate corridors," he said. "No Kira. Side channels only," I said. "Low noise. High signal," he said, a little proud that we could joke about the thing that had tried to erase him. "Vel?" I asked. He made a face into the steam. "He'll vanish until it amuses him not to," he said. "He's best handled as weather. Forecast? Bring a jacket," he said. The owner set down a plate we hadn't ordered, 2 pieces of something that involved sugar and regret. Triss eyed it like it might bite first. Then he picked up a fork and committed a bite to research. His expression did a whole story: suspicion, resignation, surprise, the precise, inverted smile of joy that happens to people who don't practice it often. "It's sweet," he said, astonished, like an anthropologist. "And not a threat." "Most good things aren't," I said, "until they are." He nudged the plate halfway across the table without looking like he was doing it. I nudged it back toward him without looking like I was doing that either. We are men, after all, And some negotiations need to pretend they aren't negotiations. Outside, a train shook the window just enough to make the cinnamon shiver. The fridge hummed, and then forgot a note, and found it again. Two kids argued about a game in accents that had never decided on a neighborhood. The city breathed around us and didn't ask for proof of identity. Dane, he said. Not because he needed my attention, but because he wanted to say it. Thank you. Don't make it a habit, I said. Already failing, he said. And we both looked at the cups like they might produce answers if stared at hard enough. We didn't kiss. We didn't even touch. We breathed. And the hinge we had made for ourselves, not corporate, not licensed, not clean, held. Steady, a small, low-level link, that didn't ask permission, and didn't offer apology. We synced our exhale on purpose one time, then pretended it was an accident. The room grew quieter, which is a trick rooms learn from people, not the other way around. On the way out, the owner told us to take an extra napkin, because the pastries shed sugar like a bad habit. We did. The doorbell lied about being cheerful. The train above us said, "Go on then." We went. The city has always been a chorus. We had been singing the wrong part for a while. Now, for a few measures at least, we found the line that suited us. "Only when I smile?" I asked, a last small vanity at the mouth of the street. "Only then," he said, and didn't look at me when he said it. He didn't have to.